session regarding an open forum where you are going to be directly connecting to MVPs and heads of technologies, where they will be asking, you can ask questions, suggestions, and they will be taking answers and they'll be guiding you across. So without wasting my time now, I would just like to introduce the three MVPs who we have with us. Lahiru from Sri Lanka, Syed from India, and Bas from the Netherlands. I think thank you, Bas, for venturing out all the way from the other side of the globe to here. And we have also a technological head, Saad from Bangladesh. Thank you all. I just would want each one of you to introduce yourself first. If I, Lahir, you can go first probably. That will be great.
Thank you, Sachin, for the introduction. So I'm Lahiru. I'm based in Sri Lanka. So I'm one of the UiPath MVPs, and I work as a RPA team lead and a solution architect for boundaryless automation. And I have been in the RP industry for about 2 years now. So that's a brief introduction about myself.
Syed, if you can go next, please.
Hey, hi, hello community. Good evening, all. So this is Syed, who's representing UiPath as an MVP, and I work with Novo Nordisk as a lead developer there. And I'm pretty excited, like how you guys are, to get this session enrolled. Thanks, Sachin, for this opportunity. I'm looking forward.
Welcome, Syed. Bas, if you can also introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sachin, for the introduction. So my name is Bas, and I'm an MVP of UiPath. Have been with the product for almost 4 years now. I liked your introduction. I've seen it grown as well from just an orchestrator, a robot in a studio, to to the automation platform that it is today. Very exciting. Besides being an MVP, I'm also a CTO and co-founder of Cyfix. We kind of started with UiPath before they've entered the Dutch market, so to say. So we have been growing just like UiPath to almost 50 developers now. And besides UiPath, we also do other technologies related in the digital workforce space, like Dialogflow or chatbots, machine learning, and AI. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Bas. Saad, if you can also give us a brief introduction about you, please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's really an honor being amongst all of you. My name is Saad Farouk. I'm working for Genix Infosys Limited. It's a large BPO and IT services companies in Bangladesh. I'm heading their cybersecurity and emerging technology department. And the virtue of that, UiPath and RPA is something we have been working extensively with UiPath team for last almost 2 years now. So we have a developer base of around 10, and we are exploring the local market, and we are working with banks, the manufacturing, the telcos in solving their automation problems.
Thank you, Saad. So guys, feel free to post your questions on the chat. Vibhor, can they unmute and ask as well, if I'm not wrong?
They can unmute me later, yeah. If they have any question, they can raise hand, then we can unmute.
Okay, so please raise your hand so that Vibhor can help you unmute and you can ask as well. So please keep your questions coming in the chat window. I'll start with a few questions which I have, which I know that a lot of people will have as well. So probably for Lahiru, I'll go with you first if you can answer this. Is there an on-prem version of AI Fabric that we can install for UiPath?
Yes, Sachin. So recently they did the general availability for AI Fabric, and they announced it, I think, yesterday, if I remember correct. So we now have an on-prem version of AI Fabric, and we also have a trial version that we can install in your on-premise servers so that you can try out the on-premise version. So it's pretty new. So give it a try and let us know how it goes.
I think I'm fairly impressed that being in UiPath, I was not sure that it had a paper release yesterday. So I think kudos to you as well on that. Bas, if you can help me out with this, in terms of data security, how can we use AI Fabric for highly confidential data? If Bas, can you hear me? Vibor, you'll have to unmute him, please.
Yeah, sorry, boss. Yeah, go ahead.
Cheers. Now it works. Thank you. I was muted. Was not allowed to unmute myself. Sorry, can you repeat the question again for the
Yeah,
audience,
sure.
please?
So in terms of data security, how can we use AI Fabric for highly confidential data? What will be your think tank say that how can we use it? How it will be helping us?
Yeah, so I think what Lihiro just mentioned, like in the case your data is highly sensitive or information securities within your enterprise or organization are restricting the transfer of this information, you should definitely go for the on-premise solution and just keep it within your network. Although I strongly believe that the cloud, the AI Fabric cloud service from UiPath has the enterprise security level as well, especially considering that Veracode has done multiple audits on a yearly basis on the UiPath stack. So working with highly confidential data is fine with, well, of course, the cloud version, but if you want to be even more sure, you can definitely go for the on-premise version.
I think that's a very valid point that we are continuously certified for Veracode as well. Probably for Syed, if you can answer this question to me. What are the inbuilt AI components available in AI Fabric? Probably, I think I can, if I rephrase this to say that, what are the pre-built models available for AI Fabric, if you are aware of? And
Yeah. So just give me a minute. Let me see whether I did not miss. So we have the models for the language analysis. We have the models to understand the translation of the language, the sentimental analysis. All this are built, which comes under the out-of-the-box solution from us, from UiPath. So user can anytime use it, and if they have their own data scientist team or the machine learning team who already have their own packages built, could be uploaded and made it available to be used by the UiPath robots at any time.
okay, thanks, Syed.
And we have document
Yeah.
understanding as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe it's more than just that as well, because I of course there are pre-built machine learning models that can speed up your AI endeavors, but I think additionally what is also important is that AI Fabric is more than just the machine learning models, but it will also help you with your data sets, your pipelines, but also to really have these feedback loops and have your insights into how your AI is performing. So I think it's really a complete solution. With respect to just only the capabilities, the features.
Okay, so I have a security question, so I think I'll involve Chad over here. Probably you will be the best person to answer this. How far is RPA secured? How do we ensure that RPA bots doesn't breach security over here?
This is a very common question I face, especially when I'm working with the banks and the telcos. They're very sensitive about their data. They have lots of concerns. They don't know how to handle a security breach when it happens through a human, but then this is something very new to them. So things they ask us, like how much access to information will the robot have? Like if the bot does some modifications, how would they find it? Do you have a record of the things that they're doing? How do we design a secure workflow? And then they ask about like if the bot platform is secured. So in these areas, like the bot platform, as you have mentioned earlier, the platform is Veracode certified. But besides that, when we're designing the workflow, we also do a secure development cycle, make sure that all the security considerations and the compliances are taken care of as it is applicable for the human. At the same time, there are other pre-built features that the bot can make use of, like environment isolation, the version controlling, the storage of the data in a secured way, the database encryption, the SSL that they use for transmitting the data. So those are the things comes into the picture when you're talking about security. However, the best approach is always to do just like any other technology or any other processes that we deploy. We do a change management, it goes through a change management process. As part of the change management process, you always must do a risk assessment on the processes, on the systems, and the services. Understand the impact of the risk and apply controls accordingly. In UiPath, they have the standard deployment processes for a secured infrastructure, and that can be followed vigorously when being deployed. So it's always a risk versus the benefit, but then when you take human out of the loop, there are some other security exposures that comes into the picture, but those are much easily manageable than managing this aspect, managing the human aspect of the security.
Okay. So just to add, probably for everyone's information as well, so UiPath is also an ISO 27001 certified. So in case if any of your, if your own organization or if any of your customers are raising this question, you can go to the link and you can download the certificate and show it to them. Bas, one question to you. I think you would be the best person to answer. If you can give us details on what is this human-robo collaboration which is happening, which is a buzz currently, that human in the loop, action center, etc. If you can just give us a brief on it, probably that will help us.
Yeah, sure. So when we were back at the time that there was just this robot and this orchestrator, the most challenging part was always whenever in the process you would encounter any decision making or any human involvement, you always had to well, go for a solution like, you know, you had to email the user and the user could email it back, and you could go for Excel files on shared drives. But the collaboration between a robot and a human, especially with an unattended robot that works in the cloud, can perform the work fine, and a human is extremely difficult. And yeah, that's something that I think UiPath has made rapid advancements in the past 2 years. So right now, Action Center is one of these products that will really help you to allow unattended robots to escalate certain use cases based on predefined rules to the Action Center, create a task, and wait for a human to complete it and really fulfill that extra information for the robot to continue working. And I believe that this human in the loop thing that is integrated in UiPath works so well. I've actually seen the private preview of the newest version of Action Center, and they're actually gonna extract it and put it outside of the orchestrator. So business users are really going to work with a robot like they would with any other service desk that basically already exists in organizations. Only this service desk is not managed by humans, but it's really managed by robots. You can literally just start services and processes from a really business environment, and I think that's crucial right now in the development of the platform. This solution is, from my experience with, well, we work for about 20 to 30 large enterprises in the Netherlands, and this has been long awaited. A feature to really have this collaboration. Before, we actually used Innate, which is a technology partner of UiPath, but it was, you know, an external product. We had the external product support, and it just didn't work as good as the UiPath Action Center. So yeah, I think if you really want to go for that scalable business processes with more complexity involved, you gotta need a platform where the robot and the business users can interchange information and help each other. And that's what Action Center is all about.
So probably just a more forward question to this, since you have mentioned. So I think earlier it was, you mentioned that we can provide feedback loop to AI fabric models as well, pre-built models as well. Can we use the human in the loop Action Center to do the same, or are you aware if we can?
Sorry?
If you are aware, we can.
Yeah, for sure we can, of course. Yeah, so when you have a task, as soon as you complete it, a postponed workflow would afterwards just pick it up and work with it. And we had a feedback call with the Action Center people or the product team actually this Monday. And basically what we discussed is like, hey, once we have completed a task, we want to, for instance, propagate it to a queue. Why is that not a part of the Action Center solution already? And they said like, no, you know, we made this very generic. The Action Center will just continue with a postponed workflow. And from there on, you can do anything with it, what you like. So if you want to propagate it to a queue, that's fine. But also if you want to propagate it back to AI Fabric or to any other solution, you can. And that's, I think, you still have the freedom of RPA. You can integrate with anything you like. And if that's a feedback loop, sure, you can.
Thanks, Bas. I think that was very insightful. Syed, if you can help me out with this, is document understanding a free tool? What are the limitations in the free version, which Lahiru mentioned earlier, if you can?
Yeah. So it is free with the latest version, which is about 2019.10 version. We can use it with the P models, which is for invoices, receipts. So these models we have already.
Your voice is breaking.
Syed, your voice is breaking, yeah.
Is it fine now?
It's
Network is
still,
fine.
it's still a bit.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I think now it's better if you can try.
Yeah. So that's what the inbuilt we have is to identify the invoices pattern, which comes as free along with the document understanding, and the receipts pattern. And we can use the three extractors we have, the regex and the machine learning extractor. And it is free for as of now for the limited number of processing, the somewhere close to 100 processing
Okay, fair enough.
as per user. Yeah.
Fair enough. So we have our answer over there. Lahiru, there is one more question. So I know we have come up with a new one, but I think just to clear the air as well, what is GPU in AI Fabric? How can we assign GPU for AI Fabric Enterprise Trial or an on-prem version?
Yeah, so GPU is more like extra CPU power to process your machine learning models that you publish in the AI Fabric. So for the trial version, we don't have GPU enabled by default. But if you're like purchasing the enterprise version of AI Fabric, you can, when you're getting license for the AI robots, you can get the AI Robot Pro version that you get. There you will get the GPU for your AI robots, and you can assign that when you're creating the machine learning models. There's just a simple tick that you need to do, and it will enable the GPU for the machine learning models.
And just a small more update on this, that in the on-prem version of AI Fabric, it is not compulsory to have a GPU. You can work with a CPU as well. So I think if you can just go to the documentation and have a look at the hardware and the software requirements, it will be much more clear. Saad, if you can help me out, this is another generic question probably. How to successfully conduct an RPA opportunity assessment?
Yes, when I'm
I think you
heading
will be
this
doing this a
business
lot for
side,
your customers.
yes, when we are heading that, like we see lots of customers, like we see an array of businesses that having a big number of employees working, they're doing repetitive tasks, be it in telco, be it in bank. When you go into a floor of a big bank, you will see there is a floor of people, like hundreds of people working. Someone is processing trade financing, someone is processing loans, someone is onboarding customers. The same goes with the insurance company, or you go to a telco. They'll have these things going on and on and on. Then they have these multiple systems they're taking from one system to another. But then that's not the only criteria that we can use to assess whether that particular organization is a good candidate for RPA. Now, when we look into that, we ask certain questions, like very, very specific questions. See if that organization is having their processes as they've been standardized. If the process is repetitive, are they doing the same thing over and over again? Does it have a high transaction volume? If the process itself is reliable, Do they have electronic input types? And can you define the process with rules? That's one part of the story, but that will help us to define the ROI calculation and see what kind of a value that RPA implementation is going to give into the organization. But then there are other aspects to it which are less tangible. It takes a little more to calculate it, like if the processes they're operating is business critical, like how much of the process they're operating is business critical. What kind of an impact of human error would be having for their business? Is it like something very negligible, or it is something they take it very seriously? What kind of a delivery timeline do you have for these processes, the outputs that are coming out? Is it just in time, or is it something they can wait for some time and go in? Like, and if the process is, again, going back to security, handling sensitive information where the information exposure itself may be critical for the business operation or put the business operation in risk by letting human accessing them or keeping them lying around. So by looking all these things, what we do is we basically make a list of processes. So where do we start? So we can either go with an industry specific processes for the banks or the telcos or the manufacturing or the garments, or we can go into a very straightforward thing which everyone has, like an HR service, in a supply chain, in a finance and accounting, and IT services. So once we identify that, then what we can do is try to understand the process, capture the attributes in a predefined format. Based on that, we can see which of the processes are having high potential of automation to start with. So to start with, what we can do is we can put it in a quadrant. We can divide the process in four different areas. We can map it to a quick win. We can map it to a low-hanging fruit. It's easily be done. A quick win would be something which gives a good return of investment, creates lots of business sense to the business owners. And then there are these must-do improvements. That's something they have to do. And then we look into the areas where you can have long-term improvements at organization-wide, like a goal. So based on these criteria, we map the customers. Then we look into their planning in the future, even whether they're in a growth mode or whether they're in a mode where they are trying to optimize the processes and increase their efficiency and save costs. Based on what the organization's appetite is for automation or for optimization, we select a limited number of processes where we create the business case, which has a significant impact, which we try to leverage on. And then from that, we try to take a break. We try to do the customer acquisition, and then we take it forward from there onwards.
Thanks, Saad. And now probably if you have started your journey and if you are looking out for expansion, I think we also have Automation Hub. I'm not sure if anyone would like to pick it up, Lahiru, Bas, or anyone who would like to describe the Automation Hub if you have used it. But I think that is also one of the important tools, or I would say one of the must-have tools of UiPath if you're doing more RP opportunity assessment, because that will help you in crowdsourcing of ideas and everything. The next question I have is probably Rahiru, if you can answer this. I have AI fabric models developed in Python. Is it possible for me to use it in the AI fabric which UiPath has done? So I've done all the data science part and everything in the background. Now I want to use my model in UiPath. Is it possible for me to use it?
Yeah, it's a good question. So though you have AI models that you have created in Python, you can easily integrate it with the AI fabric. So all you need to do is you just need to go to ML packages page in the AI fabric, and there's an option where you can upload your models that you have created in Python to AI fabric. And after that, if you want to train your models, all that can be done within AI fabric itself without writing any code.
Just to help Lahiru, the Python version also enabled we can choose the version in which the package is built, right from 3.6 till 2.3. We can just play with.
Correct. So just one more thing to inform you guys, probably in another 15 minutes, there is a surprise for you. So please do hold on and do not leave the meetup. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to what we have in store for you. So keep your questions coming in. Please make sure that you have your questions coming in, and I'll make sure that I can answer. We can answer as much as we can. So now the next question probably to Syed again to you would be, you know that we are moving towards robot for everyone, and because for which we have come up with Studio X. Now we are also using AI Fabric or the AI bots which we use to do a lot of these things to run machine learning algorithms and everything. Can I use AI Fabric in my Studio X? So as a business user, if I want to use AI Fabric in Studio X, is it possible for us to do it?
Yes, this is a very good question. So you don't need to have any extra things enabled to use your AI Fabric models in your studio. You just need to specify the package and then just deploy it, and it will be very well available in your studio, whichever you connect to the orchestrator. So the only condition is the studio in which you're trying to use the ML or the AI Fabric. It has to be connected to the orchestrator where AI Fabric is enabled. That's it.
Okay. And Syed, so that is regarding the studio, but can I use it in Studio X?
Studio X, I haven't explored, but I feel I'm not sure on
Okay.
this
If
session.
any one of you can answer, probably Lahiru, Bas, anyone, if you are
Yeah,
guys are.
so Sachin. So in Studio X, we have the ability to connect with AI Fabric through those AI machine learning related models. And even if you are using document understanding, you have the same set of activities that you can find in Studio X. So all you need to do is download the same package and use the machine learning extractor if you are using any models that you have created in AI Fabric. So that interface will be exactly the same. You just need to select the AI models from the machine learning extractor. So it's all connected.
Uh, okay. Guna, I see your question on the chat. Probably if you can just give us more idea on what all more features would you like to see in UiPath Studio X, probably then we can have a better version. What is your thought process if I'm not getting what do you mean by features? So I'll just explain what Studio X is meant for. Studio X is basically used for people who are not developers but are little tech oriented who are working in the process area. So for business users who are used to creating macros. So macros is something which a lot of business users are using it, and they create one to generate their reports and dashboards and everything. So they are the ones who are the main users of our Studio X. So we wanted them to also start automating. So today, for example, uh, I come in the morning, I create a report every day in the morning and see what time my team has checked in, or what time my team is working, or are they online, who is available for me for the until today to help me out in XYZ activities, just to get their timelines. I'll create a small bot with using Studio X, and that will be done. Or if something like I'm just reconciling two Excels every day in the morning, then those are the things which I'll work on Studio X. So those are small snippets of activities during the day which user performs is meant to be used for Studio X. Maybe if you can just give me some more details on what you are looking out for, probably I can help you out with more in that regard. The other question what I have is something like this. Is it possible to assign custom form for AI Fabric that is currently not a template? So probably I think I'll have to just reconcile it. Can I create a new template in AI Fabric uh, to create the, I'm not sure, but probably Lahir, if you can answer this as well, if you know this. I'm not sure I got the correct question over here. How to assign custom form for AI Fabric that currently is not in a template?
Maybe is referring to how we can create sample models in AI Fabric. If I think I understood the correct question properly.
Okay.
So if that's the exact question, then the answer would be like, if you have any custom or pre-built models that you already have, like in Python, as we explained earlier, you can upload it to AI Fabric. If not, if you're like doing it for some kind of documents like invoices or receipts, you can do that. You can create those forms in Data Manager, which comes in as a separate on-prem version. And through the Data Manager, you can create the those training models, and you can add, you can create a pipeline to get that data and train your machine learning models.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, it is regarding a test suite. I'm not sure who would like to take this up. If you can just let me know. It is regarding, is UiPath Academy enough to start a UiPath test suite? Or are there any more premium features which are available in community? Where can we get more practice material?
We'll take this one from you, Sachin. So
Sure,
I think this
Abbas.
is a good question. I think we're referring here to Studio Pro. It has been rebranded
Correct.
from Studio Test Suite to Studio Pro. And basically the UiPath Academy is just going through the features. And afterwards, our developers have been, we've got like 4 or 5 developers trained on the UiPath Studio Pro. And basically what we've done is we have, you know, the rpachallenges.com. And basically what you can do is just to really get the feel with all these, you know, what is a test case and a test set, etc. You can just use the rpachallenge.com and just, you know, build your own test flows and deploy it on the platform and experience it from there on. Because I think that's the best way moving forward after the academy. Just do your own little project. And once again, we use rpachallenge.com just to, you know, test these features. And we can also break the website, of course, by manipulating the HTML, and we can really see like how the feedback propagates back to the UiPath test suite. And yeah, that's how we do it.
There was the developer speaking. You can break the website by changing the HTML.
Of course, yeah. So you can see how the features within the UiPath test suite really give you back that feedback, and how you can, you know, how it would work when you deploy it in an enterprise environment.
I think, and if you want to explore the mobile testing part, Google has a mobile. If you change the testing, the website feature into a mobile, you'll get a mobile screen layout, and you can test your processes or applications even on. So there are different ways. If we are aware of, we can easily manage them as well. Probably next question, Saad, again, I'll give it to you because you answered something related earlier as well. How is it that I can streamline my process discovery? Because I'm currently struggling with my process discovery. And is there a way that I can optimize my process as well while doing process discovery?
Yes, of course. When you do the process discovery, you end up documenting the process and reviewing it with the team. So that's the perfect opportunity to optimize it further. But then process discovery, again, it is something that I have discussed earlier. It has to be, we identify the organization's repeat manual works. We look into the repetitive rule-based the processes that are matured, the methodology is not changing, has an ROI potential, low exception handling, and has machine readable inputs and high volume. So in this context, in RPA, you have the task mining and task capture. So the task capture, you can actually capture, you can, let's say that I want to see what the account reconciliation team has been doing, how much of the repetitive tasks they have. We can use task capture to record his task and gather most of the information, objective information required from the system itself, and then we can look into the subjective areas, like if it has exceptions, how much does it have, if the volume is high. Those data we can always put in if it's mission critical or not. On the other hand, we can use task mining. It automatically identifies and aggregates process workflow, and then all pipelines are mapped through an AI. That makes to discover the enterprise's processes much more easy. So if you do it manually, that's one way of doing it. If the organization agrees that they're going to work with us to do more extensive capturing, or your existing customer, existing user of RPA can be onboarded through these processes to discover additional tasks. For process optimizations, you can always use leverage Six Sigma. So you can use identifying, first you identify the right candidate, improve the process stability, and enhance the process robustness. So filter the candidate, so you filter the candidate through this Six Sigma process. So, and then you standardize the process, redesign it, and systemize the delivery of the process. And then you always remove the processes which should not be automated, which are having high level of exceptions, and which the process itself is broken, or it keeps changing. It takes lots of human interference. So that would take you, and once you take through the processes through these stages, you can much easily optimize that also. It goes through multiple level of reviews, and it could be an existing process, it could be a new process, or it could be a process that has already been automated but then can be reviewed too.
Okay, thank you, Sat. So I think the process excellence expert spoke over here. If you guys are not aware about Six Sigma, Six Sigma is a technique of process excellence where you make sure that your processes are refined and in a much better shape, and it is performing to its optimized manner. Yes, I do wanted to add something probably.
Yeah, just to add, Saad here, when the one interesting thing which we observe with the task capture is it delivers the RPA score for each and every process, considering multiple KPIs. So you can do a number approach or scientific approach. Now, which one to onboard first?
Correct. So, Syed, since you are on the call and you had answered a related question earlier, I'll just ask you. This will be the last question before I give you the surprise. Can we process images as well through document understanding? And maybe I'm not clear with the question, so I'll maybe clarify a bit. Image might be a form of a document as well, and image can be a picture as well. So if you can answer both, I think that will be great.
Yeah. So the image, if contains text, we already processing it with the help of the document understanding. The extraction has multiple features enabled, and we can just pick up the values that we need from the image, which is a scanned type of document. So we can do that session. What is the other one? Is that
no? So a picture as in a picture of a mountain with the trees, can that be processed by document understanding?
I haven't got to this use case yet, but I have seen this in the Amazon recognition.
Correct. So I think you have hit the right pot. So probably you can create an Amazon recognition and create a model based on of it, put it onto AI Fabric, and yes, then will be able to process images using AI Fabric. So Vibhor, whether you want to take it up or shall I introduce it? What is the surprise? How do you want to take it?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think there is a beautiful message which Daniel has left for all of you guys. He wanted to be on the call today, but unfortunately, due to his busy schedule, he cannot be. But he was kind enough that he said that I would like them to send up a message. So, first 2 minutes, probably you know about his journey, but that is something which you will be seeing. And then there is the message. So, I'll play the message. If Vibhor, you can confirm whether the sound is going or not, I think that will be great.
Yeah, sure.
So, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just,
You'll have to share desktop sound as well.
yeah, I'm just doing that as well. 1 second, I have already done it. So can you hear it? Were you able to hear it?
Yes, yes, yes. It started.
Okay. Okay, I'll just play that.
So much interested when I was in high school of computers. Although I was more interested in reading fiction, actually. But later on, I discovered that it's a bit easier to make a career out of being a software engineer, especially in this part of the world where I was born.
UiPath is the emerging market leader in an exploding new category that we think our readers should know about called robotic process automation, or RPA. Now, what that means is at big businesses around the world, there are hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of hours of workers' jobs every day that basically are repetitive, menial jobs on your computer, like filling out expense forms or moving contacts from one spreadsheet to another. Basically just taking all this menial work and letting software do it.
I moved to US and I started working for Microsoft. That was in early 2000. I worked there for 5 years. And then I returned to Romania to start a company, which in retrospect, it's the craziest idea that I ever had in my life. It was the opposite of immediate success. It was a big struggle for like almost 10 years until we raised our first money. It was every day a struggle to pay salaries, having the death sentence, above your head. It's quite terrible. Many people ask me today, there is a lot of pressure, and I said, no, it's different type of pressure. I prefer this type of pressure than the one, from 10 years ago.
UiPath, we think, is the market leader because it is working with so many of the leading companies in finance and manufacturing and oil and gas. The implementation and the maintenance of these robots, the services, is 4 to 5x as lucrative as the software subscription itself. So for every dollar a customer spends on UiPath, they could be spending $4 with one of these players like Cognizant, which means that they become UiPath's sales force. Daniel Dinez, who still owns between 20 and 25% of the company, is worth more than $1 billion, which makes us call him the first bot billionaire.
2016 was an unexpectedly good year for RPA. So we've seen really the good sides, and our revenue increased a lot. And I was fortunate to be introduced to a great firm like Excel. We grew 70 times from that. And it's in a span of just 2 years. I would say that we live on the edge of life right now. It's really, you have a rocket and you drive it and it's very high speed. You just have to avoid stars. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to meet all of you. Of course, I wish to meet you in person. And I can tell you that I love being with you. I love these territories as a vacation destination, first of all. I'm a big fan of Maldives when I've been quite a few times, but I plan for a long time to go everywhere else, Sri Lanka, to Bangladesh, to Bhutan, to Nepal. You guys have a lot to offer in terms of culture and nature, but I think the most important, you can have a lot to offer in terms of talent to the world. And this is why we are here, to talk about an opportunity. I think that RPA, automation in general, and this crisis will present us with a big opportunity to make a giant leap forward. We can skip a bit and we can get closer to more advanced countries in terms of technology adoption. I can tell I am coming from a small country in Eastern Europe, and I think the same or Romania, we are having a big opportunity. If we have also the talent to be able to understand technology and to implement it at scale, but in the same time, we need a change of mentality. If we understand this opportunity and how it presents to us, we have a big hope going forward, and we have a big opportunity. I keep saying opportunity to make a big case, to understand this is something that we can seize now and we can take advantage of. I'm a big believer again in these regions. I travel all across the world and I am very attached to Southeast Asia. I've met some of the best people in my life. And we at UiPath are totally along with you. We want to support you. We want to invest in you guys. And my only kindly request to you is just be open. We've seen tremendous movement already. Hundreds of people that are getting certified. Everything is all good, but this is truly a moment to go big and accelerate the way you guys think about automation. Thank you so much. I'm sure that next time we will be able to meet in person, but until then, be safe, take care of you and your family in the first place, and think about automation. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
So there was Daniel Dines with a message for every one of you. So any feedback, anything if you would like to say, please put a chat request, or anything if you would want to know, please feel free. And please keep the questions coming in. So there is one very good question. I'm not sure who would like to pick it up. Probably if one of you can pick it up. What would be the prerequisites and key challenges in implementing AI Fabric? Who would like to go first? I think I'll allow each one of the speakers to have their own points, probably each one of the MVPs. If one of you would want to go first, boss, I'll ask you to go first, then I'll wait for the others to pitch in as well.
Yeah, so in terms of the prerequisites, if you want to go for on-premise, of course, depending on the models and of the size, you would need your CPUs and GPUs, of course. Additionally, with AI Fabric, of course, you need to learn the skills of what it needs to apply AI Fabric. So you should definitely go and play around at first. And when you are ready for more serious implementation, you should then make sure you involve an enterprise architect to really build a platform that is ready to scale. So also involve your information security consultants, which was one of the questions earlier, to make sure that you integrate as good as possible. And I think a preference is always to go for the cloud solution, less lifecycle management. But you should, first of all, you should research, like, hey, is this a possibility? What data is going to be in scope? Which processes are we going to use with AI Fabric? So that is one of the, I'd say, the first discussion you should have before you start implementation.
Okay, Syed, probably if you can also chime in as well over here.
Yeah. So just whatever Bas has informed, we already know this. So now when we have a non-prime solution of AI Fabric, one challenge, because I'm going to the second point, the key challenges which we need to look at or consider is a non-prime, you have a ML model which has to be continuously be retrained to help you extract much better inputs. Second challenge, one is your collaboration with the expertise of your team across. It's not only the RPA team who will get a benefit out of it. To make the complete benefits from the AI Fabric, you have to involve your data scientist team. So the expertise collaboration is one of the key implementation. Third, what is the volume? Look, the AI Fabric is one of the biggest and strongest tool. It needs more volume to give you much better prediction. So these are the three things which I would forecast or I have heard about.
Okay. Lahiru, if you can also provide your challenges or something. So if guys, if you are not aware of, Lahiru is about to post or gonna post a good video tutorial, community video tutorial on Academy. So please have a look at it, and probably you can work with him as well. You can bug him on community and ask him for questions.
Yes, Sachin. So I think Bas and Said covered almost all the points that I also had in mind about the AI fabric and the challenges. About the course that you mentioned, it's on document understanding. So it's published in the UiPath Academy, focusing on invoice automation. It's like a simple case study that you can follow and try to understand how the document understanding framework can be applied to verify or extract data from this kind of document.
Okay. Thanks. So the next question which we have received is probably we are going to set up orchestrator on-prem. So Tivankak, I have given you all the documentation links to you for your orchestrator on-prem setup. Have a look at it and let us know if you have any more questions on it. The other question I have is, does computer vision activity depends on screen resolution similar to image automation once the code is implemented or not? So, how?
I want
Yeah,
I want to take
sure,
this one
sure.
because I love computer vision and we've done lots of great stuff with it. But regarding your question is, so I think computer vision definitely responds to the resolution, because basically how my view on computer vision is that based on my discussions with Kosin, who is one of the product managers for computer vision, it is basically it has a machine learning model that is really good at determining all these elements like forms, buttons, and all that kind of stuff. And the way it works, it actually you make kind of your own type of selectors to interact with that machine learning model. So you're basically saying like, hey, I'm looking for a button with this size in terms of pixels, like this is the shape of the button, and I'm looking at relative to this other button with this size, for instance. So because it is pixel based, it will definitely respond to resolution, but it's not that if you change the resolution that it would break it per se, but I would still recommend to really try to keep the resolutions the same. In case you automate forms, make sure that it is maximized windows, because the larger the image is, the better the results are, and that's something that I've seen over many Flash applications or Citrix applications that we've automated. So I would say definitely resolution matters, and the higher the better, and always try to maximize any window or form that you have, because it will definitely increase the quality. Something else that you can do is if it's a small form, you can still take the picture and scale it out to a larger image, and then give it to the model. So it definitely impacts.
Okay. So the next question is, any proven successful business case specifically during this COVID situation? I think I'll just go first because I'm aware of it being in the customer success role. We have few customers who have implemented a lot of cases on, especially on the attended automation, because earlier they had people working through a lot of shifts and everything was working and they were able to manage the request. But all of a sudden, because of this COVID, we have seen a surge in attended automation use cases. Probably Syed or anyone else who would want to go. Syed, probably you first because you are working with one of our customers.
Yeah.
Any successful business use case which has been implemented in your organization? And
Yes. Just to add to your session, I would say indirectly, this COVID situation has increased or boost the RPA market much. I have seen, let it be in my organization and let it be people from the other organizations, have adopting more to the RPA where they couldn't get their employees available to work right now. Most of the use cases which have got turned or tuned into the RPA. Almost there is one more slight change which I have also seen, the attended automation, because few of them are desktop automation where the systems are in offices. They also been converted to unattended.
oh,
So this is good news for you, I know.
I'm very happy then. For sure, I'm happy. And I think Bas has been very kind that he has added the link from his organization to yours. So probably one can also go ahead and have a look at it. The next
Just to
question.
go deeper into that, Sachin, it's about KLM. So we had one very interesting COVID case where KLM had to cancel due to Corona all their tickets, and their daughter company, so that's Transavia. And because of that, the back office queues were just staggering with all these cancellations that had to be done manually. And this was such a huge peak that they would be looking at a backlog of 2.5 months of work, and they had to pay back the tickets fees within 1 month. And they called us at a Thursday morning. It was like 9 a.m. And luckily we had some availability with developers. And actually the robot was live the Monday afterwards. And that same week, we have actually completely emptied the whole back office queue and made sure that everyone got their tickets back in time. So I think that these peaks in the back office queue because of the huge disruption Corona brought to these businesses, we've seen many cases where RPA is helping with processing these back office queues. And I think based on the deadline with Transavia, we built the robot within 16 hours. That's not really a good business model for an implementation partner, I can assure you, but it is an incredible proof how strong RPA is.
Oh, that was something very nice. The next question is, can we expect AI Fabric availability for the community edition soon? I think Syed answered the question earlier. We have one. You just need to go on to cloud.uipath.com and activate your trial license with your official email address, and you will be able to do it. So there is one question in private. So I'm not sure if anyone is aware about it, and I'm also not sure, but I'll post it to the group. When there will be more materials on UiPath process mining on UiPath Academy, whether there will be any process mining certifications in UiPath Academy. Yes, the certifications, I'm sure they are in a process on how we are going to do it. But if anyone is aware about during your discussions with the product managers or anything being MVPs regarding the process mining academy tutorials, apart from the app fund what we have right now. Is anyone aware? I don't think so. As far as I know, there was a course on Process Gold Academy, the company which UiPath has acquired. That academy is now being transferred into UiPath. So we are working on it. There will be something coming soon. I'm not sure how much time it is going to take. But currently you will be not able to log in onto the Process Gold Academy. If you had logged in earlier with the Process Gold Academy when it was live, then you still will be able to use it. But if you have not logged in earlier, then it is going to be difficult for us to take it forward. But you'll have to wait. Currently, you just need to work on the app funds course, which is there. Even that is a very detailed course, and it is somewhere close to 10 hours. So, and that it gives you a lot of insights about what you can do once you have the process mapped into the system. So the next question what I have is, Saad, probably if you can take this up, since you have been answering on process discovery and optimization, how do we measure RPA's ROI? How can I make sure that I can get it right completely?
Right. So when we talk to the CEOs and the CFOs, and if we really want them to sponsor it, and if you talk to the board of a big organization, the only numbers we can talk about is ROI, and you have to be very objective when we pitch this for them to get interested. Also to give the benefit of it and show them how soon they can reap the benefit of RPA. So again, we go with the same questions. Once we go through the process discovery phase, we look into the FTE, like the processes that they're trying to automate, how much human full-time employees are involved in that to calculate the human involvement cost. So there is a there is a worksheet that we work with. So by looking at the FTE, we can talk about the hours that we give back to the business while we are automating the processes. Then we talk about, again, a subjective matter, but most of the organization will have some measurable impact for it in reduced quality cost. So like how the quality insurance by the automation reduce their cost in terms of their other area, in terms of their opportunity, or in terms of their service delivery. Then we talk about we calculate the just-in-time delivery, how critical it is for the organization to be able to deliver things right away rather than putting in the queue to be delivered for the next week or the next month. Especially in the service-based organization, they put on a good value on that number. Then we look into the service availability, make sure that the services are available throughout the day, throughout the weekends, throughout the holidays, and measure the customer satisfaction. And we also address the business agility, how it makes it much easier for them to onboard, keep the repetitive work doing without hiring new employees or without giving them more training or looking into their competencies over and over again. And then at this pandemic time, we also, as my other panelists discussed, we also look into the business continuity measures. How the bot as an attendant or an unattended bot can help the business to go on, even though there are some aspect of the business or some aspect of the environment or some unknown things happening, how would they reduce the impact of the business? And last but not least, we look into employee satisfaction, like what kind of a value they bring into the table when they remove the employees from doing the repetitive job and put them in a more productive environment, like helping them to go to the next level rather than having the person who has to do the thing every day over and over again. And so when we do this calculation from the FTE side, we get some values, and the other business elements, we can calculate what are the cost savings and what are the opportunity costs they're having. And based on that, we do the calculation and see how soon they can get into return. So usually it is like 3 to 9 months, but in our scenarios, sometimes when we are purely dealing with objective numbers rather than getting into a more subjective period of it, it sometimes exceeds a year. But then for an organization which goes beyond a certain size and has a number of processes to be automated, usually jumps in to this process, or they add more processes for automation.
So I think you mentioned the traditional way of what we used to do. I think Bas will also be up to it, that we used to have maintain Excels and we used to do a lot of these things to make sure that we were able to show ROI. But now, since UiPath as a platform has grown as a tool, I think we also have insights, and I'm not sure who would like to pick up insights. Lahiru, Syed, anyone who would like to pick up insights and tell us more about it?
Yes, Sachin, thanks. Insights, I'll tell you what one of the best things, which actually what my understanding or my interpretation of UiPath Insights is a little different, because my use case is like that. Now, as how we have a system to monitor the workforce, like the human workforce. So Insights helps us to understand how our digital workforce are performing. If my ecosystem has 25 servers and 35-40 licenses, how much utilization of them is being done? Are the server or the license is completely utilized? Is the process which I'm supposed have expected to run, is it a hollow run, or is there are inputs in that particular thing or not? This is something which have helped us, particularly my organization, to revise the entire way how we look at it. So there are lots of scenarios where we simply running the robot without an input, which actually helped it to analyze my last 6 months data. And when I look at it, for example, on a certain weekends, though my bot run, but there is no input. So I have to disable the schedule and I have accommodated the license for one other process.
That was interesting. Lahir, if you
Yeah.
want to add something. If...
Yeah, so once I came across a scenario where people have used insights as a kind of a BI tool. So apart from what the users, the robot is logging in the log files in Orchestrator, these guys, what they have done is they have included few other key data points in the logs so that they can use it in the inside as a separate dashboard to showcase that to some of their clients, basically the people who are using that. So it, apart from measuring the bot performance and all that, it has actually the capability to act as a BI tool as well up to some extent. So that's something different that I have seen.
Okay, thanks, Lahir. Bas, probably you and your team have explored this more, then I'll put this across to you. If you can explain the UiPath integration with the DevOps, have you tried that? And if yes, then what would be the best practices?
Yeah, so well, we have definitely tried that. I think the CI/CD pipeline is very important asset. I think to refer back to what Saad said earlier about the security of a platform, it's more than just the application security. Also, there's a human threat, of course, and their CI/CD pipeline has a huge impact because you can have like these approval flows of who can actually approve this. The deployment to the acceptance environment and who can make sure that it deploys to the production environment. So our experience is as follows. If you're in a new version, so starting from 19.4, I think, but then also in the 19.10 Enterprise Edition, make sure you use Git projects, because with Git projects, you can really have branch policies and you can further optimize your approval flows. With regard to deployments. UiPath has a DevOps agent available, which you can deploy in DevOps itself, but you can also host it locally. And that's something that you would need, of course, to build the actual NuGet packages and make sure that it gets uploaded to the orchestrator. If you want to use, so that's for DevOps, it's your easiest bet. If we have a new enterprise joining the UiPath platform, we will always try to get them on DevOps because of the pre-built agent from UiPath. But please mind you that if you get to an enterprise that uses Jenkins or Bamboo or any other CI/CD pipeline, you can really easily integrate with any pipeline you want, because basically what you do is on a local system, you just install the UI robot, and through simple command line, you can actually build your XAML files into a package. So yeah, so certainly that's what I can tell you on this surface or on this level about the UiPath integration. I hope it helped.
Yes, it definitely helps. And if you are not aware of, I think we also have integrations directly built to source code tools as well, SVN, TFS, and everything. A lot of these tools have a good integration with DevOps as well. So uh, uh, if you want to do it, then you can do it via that as well. If you want to do the way Bas has mentioned, I think whichever way is comfortable to you, you can do it. So Kumar, you have asked me a question privately. I'll request you to connect with Louisa. She will help you out with the entire selection process over here. So the question was, if how is the MVP selection process being taken place? If anyone has any questions with respect to that, please reach out to Louisa. She will be more than happy to assist us on this. The next question is, Lahir, if you can help me out over here. If you have explored this, what is the picture-in-picture feature in UiPath Assistant?
Yes, Sachin. So I have explored it once. So it's basically come in as a attended automation. So what happens there is that once you run the process, it initiates a separate session within the same instance that you're logged in at the moment, and it will basically show the. So if you let me explain it in this way. If you take the screen of your machine, and once you run the process, it will create a separate session in that same machine, and it will open it up in the same screen as a separate small window, and that will have the same taskbar, the same set of applications you have in that in your machine, and the process will run in that instance, so that your machine will be free for you to do anything while the process runs in a separate session in the same login that you are logged in, so that you and the bot can work parallelly without impacting each other's work. So that's how the thing work, and you can basically enable that through the studio. So on the top ribbon you have that option for you to enable that.
Exactly what the hero mentioned. I think that's one of the biggest cons when I show a client an attendant bot. When it's deployed, then their final response will be like, okay, so now I cannot do anything. No, there's a lot of GUI automation, so you really don't touch your mouse, and with picture-in-picture, you can, prevent that and make sure that the human can continue with other work, so you can actually reach the time savings that probably Saad has told your CFO.
True.
To circle it all back.
Syed, you were also trying to unmute to put up a point.
Yeah. Just like the points Lalahiru and Bas has added. So it actually helps the system to get freedom. So the mouse, the keyboard would be freed up for the user to use, and the picture-in-picture, the whatever the automation we have built, it would be running without any interruption.
Okay, so I'll just put a punch over here just for more detailing on this. UiPath also has in an attended automation background and foreground processing. If one of you can just help me out understand how it will that happen, can one of you be kind enough to get our guys up to speed? So we have a picture in picture. Now we also have a background and foreground automation. If any one of you would like to take things up, probably that will be great.
I'll go first.
Sure.
Yeah, so the difference between the background and the foreground is that in foreground processors, the bot will always interact with different applications that's open in your screen. And that can be a web application or a desktop application, basically any application. And the limitation you have there is you can only run one foreground process at a time. But when it comes to background processors, background process means that processors that do not interact with any application. That means I'm not saying that it doesn't interact with the application through APIs or database calls. That's not the case. What I'm meaning is that background process will not interact with any interface related elements. Basically, if you see anything in the screen, like different buttons, check boxes, text boxes, it will not interact with those, but it will interact with the applications through API calls or through desktop database connections. The good thing about that is you can run multiple background processors while you're running a foreground process. So you will have a main process running that interacts with the application, and while that is running, you can have any number of background processors that work on various different other activities, and that will be processed by one single bot. So that bot will be handling multiple processes at the same time.
So there is a question related to that. So I think you answered it. Is there any limit to run background processes? The answer is no. By the way, there is one small limitation. If you ask, it is not with respect to UiPath. UiPath can have any number of processes which you can have in the background, but there will be a hardware limitation which you might face on your system coming in, because you might be opening up Excels or running queries into your databases and everything. So those are resource intensive. So probably that might create an issue with it, but running the number of processes in the background is not something which is there. Boss, I think you would have also come across this with your existing customers. If you can help me answer this, that Internet Explorer support is going to end soon. What will happen if to the old processes? Have your existing customers or anyone come back to you asking about this or letting us know something of that sort?
Yeah, so what we would, with all respect, we always use Google Chrome for our clients. And if certain applications do not support Chrome, but they need Internet Explorer, then we would keep it on Internet Explorer. For now, what we've had is that the Internet Explorer support will be ending, so we would just not update it. I'm not sure what the UiPath support would be. Maybe I can revert it back to you. But certainly what I would always recommend is, and also what I get back from all the developers, is that you should always try to use another browser of choice, like Edge, which is still based on Chromium, or you can use Firefox or something like that. So I would definitely move away from Internet Explorer. And if you have Internet Explorer and you're going to be updating your UiPath software, then I think it's not going to be supported. So you should definitely migrate to another browser.
So I'll also add something over here, Bas. So if Internet Explorer is ending, it is not just going to be the old processes. Even those websites which only work on Internet Explorer are going to have some issues when they are moved to different platforms or different things. So probably it's a bigger question which we need to consider the entire IT operations and everything coming into the picture and then taking a call. But I think that's a good question. Another question is, if we line up the UiPath product bundle, what would be the suggested roadmap winning combination digital transformation journey and process automation? I think so. It's the entire hyper automation platform if we consider. So, what would be your suggested roadmap for this? Who would like to go first? Probably that will be anyone who would like to go first. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I can tell you that what we think is the automation journey that we always suggest to our clients is, you should start small and obviously, and you should first start with your simple RPA processes. Don't look at the business case yet, just look for the biggest irritators in your team, right? Because that's a part of the impact. And I think from the whole automation platform that UiPath offers, it will probably be the 3 core products: Studio, Robot, Orchestrator, and then additionally, very important is the Automation Hub, because I think we've mentioned Automation Hub for benefits tracking, but something else that's really helpful is for, you're getting your automation pipeline. And this is, I think, the most important thing possible, because without your automation pipeline, at some point you're going to be stuck and you cannot progress any further and not automate anymore. So your automation pipeline is very, very important. And therefore I recommend to organize as much inspiration sessions with teams, department managers, the Lean Six Sigma teams within your enterprise, the Lean communities, the black belts, whatever it is. Just try to be out there, give presentations, and at the end of the presentation, make sure you do like a follow-up. You say like, hey, try to think of all the boring work that you're doing or that you're seeing other people doing, and insert the automation hub link where people can just submit all their processes, and make sure you really get that automation pipeline. And once you have done, like we usually say, like 10 to 15 robots, that's the moment that you really can scale up your capability and look into AI and chatbots and other solutions. But yeah, I think the most important thing is here to really start small and then scale fast. And Automation Hub is, besides the core UiPath products, the only product I would recommend at the very, very beginning to get an automation pipeline. And from there on, you can, based on the processes, you can start collecting all the other solutions UiPath has to offer in the ecosystem.
Great. I think that was a very good insight. Even I agree to something similar roadmap, which if you ask me, that will be something on the same lines. Lahiru, since you answered the earlier question, there is a related question regarding background and foreground. Can we access UI element with background process as Selenium does? Is it possible for me to do that?
Yeah, so in the background process, you cannot access the UI elements, because if you enable UI activities in a background process, that will actually disable the background automation of that process. So then it will be a foreground process. So all the background processors cannot access UI elements. It will always work in the background. So somehow when it comes to Excel or Word related applications, You can still open the Excel file and do the data insertion, reading, all that, but you cannot interact by clicking on those Excel buttons. So it's always in the background, and you cannot access any UI element through a background process.
Fair enough.
Yes, Sachin, just to add to Lahiru, to have more understanding on the question and the answer. So it depends on what is the action that you want to perform on a certain UI element. Is that we just need to enable a click? Is this we just need to check whether the particular UI element is visible or not? You can use the get attributes, get the attribute and check it. For this, we don't need to perform any foreground operations. So it is again the case dependent or the the element dependent and what is the action that we're going to perform there.
Okay, so anyone has, by any chance, has anyone of you explored the WebDriver functionality in UiPath? Will that work in a background process or not?
So that is a helping hand to make most of our foreground process to become a background process session.
So that was the next question as well. So did you were you talking about the headless browser with web drivers? That is what I also asked. So I think we have the answer. How can we implement background and foreground process? Is there a documentation available? Yes, there is, Devyani. If you go to docs.uipath.com and if you go there, you'll find all this documentation available on how we can implement a foreground and a background process. We have 4 different templates in Studio. You'll get about, you'll understand about what each template does, how we can use it, and you can start from there. And probably then we have the community forum where you can post questions and you can get an answer to. So moving on, I think we have less than 5 minutes, so I'll keep this as one of the last questions. Securing business continuity with RPA maintenance. Saad, probably this is again your field of expertise. If you can pitch in over here, that will be great.
Yeah, I'll just do it shortly. So RPA itself becomes an area where once you have lots of bots, it itself becomes an area where we are going to need lots of maintenance. So when we start onboarding processes, at some point of time it needs a regular maintenance. And without that, the entire infrastructure starts moving into a risk, which may become an unknown to an organization which has just onboarded RPA or as a practice. So a focus on that is really important.
Okay. So I believe with this, with due respect to time, I have one question each from me to all of the panel members. We are coming to the end of this forum. Now there was a question on the chat as well. As MVPs, what do you suggest? How can one start now and become an MVP? I think with Bas, it was different. They started somewhere 4 years ago. With Lahiru, it was different. Now with Syed, it was a different way. Now with all these products coming in, I would like probably your thoughts one by one on each. How can one become an MVP so that the team over here who's there can go ahead and work on it as well? So probably Bas, we'll start with you first.
Sure. It's hard to not make a bad joke. You just, you have to send some money to Bucharest, and you'll be. I'm just kidding. Now you just got to be very active and join the community. I think a lot of people in my environment try to be an MVP as well. And I think what UiPath is doing really well is that they really care about technology, right? So like, you really have to understand the technology. Oh. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so what the thing is that all the assessments and the questions were really like, hey, are you always keeping up with the latest innovations in UiPath? And are you really, well, technical skilled on the product? And if that's a yes, then you can become an MVP. If you're more business minded, then that's going to be more difficult. So I'm not sure what the roadmap is for the MVP program, of course, but for this MVP assessment, you just have to know all the ins and outs of all the products of UiPath, and they will test you through the assessments. So, you know, become an expert in the product and you'll kill those assessments and become an MVP, I reckon.
Syed, probably if you can give your thoughts for people who want to become an MVP.
Yeah, Sachin, I have a formula. I have 4 T's. One is you talk. First, you train yourself. Then you teach the people, talk to the community, and take the questions from them. As simple. This is naturally makes you an MVP. First for yourself. You now the ecosystem of UiPath is too huge. So you consistently have to get yourself trained with the every aspect which is coming in. So when you got trained, please talk to your peer, your family, your colleague, your neighbors, friends. Start teaching them. And when you go and teach them, there is absolutely you want to implement this. So go talk to the forum. There are lots of questions. Answer them. When you have got all this, take the advantages, take the opportunities, take the problem. You see a problem there, take it as to your personal. These 4 T's will build you a self-made MVP, post which Luisa and Vibha will take care.
I think that was something a very interesting answer. I love it. Lahir, I think even you agree to what I see your expression as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So it's kind of the same answer that I was also thinking of telling. So just be active and always keep yourself up to date. Go to the academy. There are a whole bunch of courses that you can go through. Go through them. Use your free time on learning and contributing to the community. So while learning, even if try the things by yourself. You don't need to have a official project to try anything. You have a community version, you have trial versions, and you have access to all the available resources. Find some automation idea, and that can be your personal idea as well. Try out what you learn and give feedback of the products to the product team, or post that information in the forum or LinkedIn or any social media, and always be active. That will always help you. And as Said mentioned, rest, Vibha and Luisa will take care.
Right. So I also wanted to add one more thing. So just being on the community is not that you can only become an MVP. I think there are much more things that you can do on the community apart from becoming an MVP. I think you can post your video tutorials on our academy. So something that is a very big thing. You can contribute to a blog. Maybe you are a good process analyst. Maybe you know how to optimize processes. What you have been doing. You can post blogs. The next part, I know that our documentation team requires help. If you are good at things, you want to become a tech writer, you want to do things, you can be a part of that. You can be also a part of our insider preview program. I think that is one of the most important things which is there as part of UiPath, which you can become. Insider preview program is basically that you will be providing feedback directly to our product team. So for example, we have a release coming up in October. So as part of the insider preview program, you will be using it, you will be testing it right now. So before everyone sees it, before everyone does it, you will be seeing this. And if not, we love your feedback. So I think if you can just give us feedback, then that will be great as well. And Chad, I'm not going to leave you easy. So probably I'll ask you a bit more generic question. How can developers become more solution centric? How can they become more solution architect oriented? Just to grow their roles, just to make sure that they are growing their own footprint as well.
Right. This is something I have been addressing from the very beginning. We didn't inherit, we didn't hire any developers, but we actually trained them. We have took them through the process, the entire life cycle of RPA, from the business analysis side to the requirement gathering side, communicating with the customer, and then doing the coding. So that we engage them throughout the cycle, so that eventually we can bring in more developers and we can help the developers who has been working with the product and escalate into the next level as a business analyst. So And then they working with the customers eventually helps them add more value to the solutions we build, solutions we offer.
Okay. So I think you have made a very good point. I think it is always the process of trying to find an answer. Even I believe that it's the process of trying to find an answer to a question you don't know makes you a better developer rather than just waiting for something that someone will give you. I think it is absolutely fine if you do not know the answer to a question, but if you are willing to go ahead, search for it, find people are always here to help you on community as well. So that is one thing. So your thirst for knowledge should be greater. And with that thirst for knowledge, I think I would like all of you to register to our developers conference. So this is something which you can find on the uipath.com events page. It is on the 2nd and 3rd of September from 4 p.m. India time, 11:30 a.m. British time, and 6:30 a.m. Eastern US time. If you can log in, you can just go here and register for it. Once you register, you'll get all the details. I think that is for 2 days, 6 hours of non-stop innovations which you'll see, and there will be few things which will blow your mind. I think I request you to go ahead, have a look at it, so you know that there are 20 plus speakers, 18 plus sessions. There will be more than 10,000 attendees, and if you want to see the agenda, click here, see the agenda. You'll find some things which are very interesting. You will be seeing the innovation, what this world is being doing and what UiPath is going to bring up. So if you see over here, it is starting from 6:30 from 4 p.m. India time. So probably you can have a bit early start to a day and have a delayed end as well. But I can guarantee you that this will be worth it. So with this, I'll be closing the session out. Please reach out to Vibhor or anyone else if you want to do it, and then take it forward from there. Thanks everyone for your time, and thank you everyone from the panel members for being such a gracious in answering all the questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank you, everyone.